Hey everybody, glad to see you. Glad you could join me. And if you're watching the recording, glad you decided to watch it. Anyway, let's jump into it, shall we? Got a lot to talk about. Check this out right here. S&P 500 holding on to the top of the green box, actually making a green daily candle. Super bullish in my opinion heading into 2023. That was the last trading day of 2022. One for the record. Right there. Biggest downtrend in the market. I was looking at Wall Street Journal. Said the biggest whack to the market since the great financial crisis. Well, that sure fits in line with not a recession narrative, right? All right. Looking at the S&P 500, almost a green day, down 9 points for the day. So close to closing out the year on a green day. Anyway, let's pop over to the disclaimer. All trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This presentation right here intended to be informational, educational, fun only, and is not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. Let's get that out of the way. And if you want personal financial advice, go hire and consult a financial advisor. So let's talk about what I'm here to do today. So the market roadmap. This right here, my favorite setup in the market. This line right here is the market roadmap line. I'm going to give you the code for that line during this session right here today. I'm going to show you as we build the watch list for the week, for the first week of 2023. Then if you go check in the description under the video, there's a link that you can do a trial for 3 months for $5 and get the whole year for like $24 or something like that. Incredible deal. Still running my Christmas special. So number one, we're looking for price to break up through the roadmap line, the orange line. Number two, we're looking for price to come back and retest after it breaks up and continues on for some amount of time. Can be a few days, preferably a couple weeks, but can be as short as a few days and come all the way back, or it can take a while. And then ideally we want to see kind of a three-wave type move. We get this one down, one up, and the third down coming up right to the orange line. Sometimes it pokes a little below. This was an ideal setup I grabbed from a while back, and we're looking for it to move up away. So number three, your entry right there, the most aggressive entry is when it first pulls up away. You can potentially get in if you're an aggressive trader. Otherwise, you want to wait until it comes up through the 618 level. Now you can run a fib line from the high to the lowest, the highest high right here, after we broke the line, to the lowest low, where it bounced off the line. And then when it breaks the 618, that would be your entry. It's a more conservative entry. Now, this one did a classic move up into this resistance zone, retrace a bit, poke up again, retrace a bit, find support at the 618, then finally make its move up to the prior high, found resistance, pulled back slightly, right back to the support resistance zone, and then finally blasted off, went right through the first target, the 1272 line, came up to the second target, barely a pause at the 1618, then kept on moving up. Finally it ran out of steam there, making a big inverted hammer type situation, came back down, bounced off the 1618, and ran out to the 272, where it finally met the end of the trend before it came all the way back down almost to the roadmap line. Once again, restarting the whole pattern. This is one of my favorite patterns that occurs over and over in all different time frames. I use it on the daily time frame for doing the market roadmap watch list, and I send that watch list out every week. So I make a video similar to what we're going to make today. Now, let's jump into it and build the watch list, talk about the code. Right here, we have the chart with the market roadmap line, a market roadmap indicator. So let's go ahead and pop that up. And here's the code right here. As promised, here is the code. So drag that screen up just a little bit. Right there it is. So there's the code. Pause the video, take a screenshot, copy it, type it in. Now, if you wanted me to give you the code, and actually where you can just copy and paste it right into TradingView right like this, come join me. It's in the Discord channel for Market Roadmap. So there was the code right there, as promised, right off the bat. Now let's build a watch list. Let's see how this thing works, right? I have done a scan and pulled up these potentials. The scan I did was looking for an uptrend on the weekly and a pullback on the daily. How do you do such a scan? Well, I use something called live trading alerts, and I look for a weekly 8 EMA above the 34 EMA, so that's an uptrend, and then I look for a daily 8 EMA below the 34 EMA, and then I build a list. And this list right here was filtered on the top 400 by options volume. So these stocks were out of the top 400 options volume picks out there in the market. Now, some of these are good, some of them are not good, and we're going to run through the list and kind of cull it down. So starting out with ASML right here, that's a pop up through the line, a return right back to the line, and we closed just right at the line. So we'll leave that one on the list for a minute. We'll come back and talk about targets and all that sort of stuff, how to actually trade this here in a few minutes. We'll run through the list and cull it down first. That one below the roadmap line, and looks kind of slappy. It's off the list. Next one up, BTU. Hasn't quite got to the roadmap line yet. Kind of a three wave. That one might be good next week, but this week it's off the list. Next up, COP. Nice move down, bouncing. This is a potential entry, so we're going to leave that one on the list. Next one, CVE. Didn't really pop up through, just kind of been bouncing along. Pullback. It's acceptable. May not be the best. DIA, the Dow Jones ETF, that looks pretty good. So DVN, below the roadmap line, for this week, it's off the list. ENPH, closing at the bottom of the line. That's pushing it. We'll leave it on the list. ET, that's pretty much what we're looking for. Bounce off, bounce off. Repeatable pattern. This one crushing down through, off the list. GPS, pushing down through, off the list. GS, finding support right at the roadmap line for several days. We'll leave that one on for now. IBM, not quite there. Take it off the list, maybe in a future week. KMI, I don't like that one. That's not a trend. That's like a sideways to down. I'm going to nix it off. I like to find the best of the best for my followers that subscribe to this. That's breaking down lower on LNG. Lows, closing below the roadmap line at the, it's off the list. Lulu, below the roadmap line. This may be something that turns around in the next week or so, but right now, off the list. Macy's, now closing just above. This one's kind of been on the list on and off for a while, as in it was on the list quite a bit last year, earlier in the year. I'm going to leave it on the list for now. We'll look at the fibs and the targets here. McDonald's coming up a little bit shy, but that's still a pretty classic roadmap type setup there. MRO, another good pullback to the roadmap line. I believe that one was on the list last week too. Morgan Stanley below, nix it. Netflix, wow, that was exactly what I wanted to see on Netflix. If you were in the 30 minutes of awesome, that's really nice. I'm going to leave that on the list for this week. NUE, I'm not sure what that little bounce was. While it may go, you could set some alerts up here and potentially watch it for a bounce. I'm going to nix that off the list this week. ON, down below the roadmap line. OVV, that just doesn't look like the pattern, does it? I mean, some of these, there is a bit of discretion in my list here, but, and that one right there, AT&T, pop up, pull down. It could work, maybe. We'll leave it on the list. We'll talk about it. UNH, that's not set up for, like, that was a lower high before it hit. Not getting the trend and the extension. We're looking for a trending stock that we're trying to catch the breakout trend, the pullback, and the continuation. And this just doesn't look like it's set for continuation right at the moment. So I'm going to take it off the list this week. VLO, no, that one looks like it could be set for, see, we got some a little bit of trend, pull back, a little bit of higher trend, higher high, pull back, higher low. That looks like it could go, right? Next up, WMT. Coming up short. I'm going to nix it off the list. XLB. Man, down below the roadmap line. Nix that one. XLE. Well, came up short, but some of them do. Even the example I had on the slide right here. Wrong slide. This slide, not quite hitting. So we'll keep that one on the list for this week. XLF. Closing in the roadmap line. I'm going to nix it for this week. XME. That looks acceptable. It was a higher high. This is a higher low. We'll keep on the list. And then XOP down here underneath the roadmap line. It's off the list. So right now we've got a fair list. Let's see what we're down to. 16. All right, that's okay. So now, what do we do next? Now the second pass through. That was the first pass through. This one, kind of sitting at the low end here. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a fib line, and we're going to look at that. See that support resistance right there? Fits right with the 618 level. Now, that consolidation didn't know where the bottom was going to be to make this 618 level line up with that. I mean, but it's kind of funny how this happens over and over and over, that there's a consolidation before the final pop and then the pullback, and that 618 level lines up right with the prior consolidation. Like, it happens over and over. I mean, we're looking for repeatable patterns. This is a repeatable pattern that happens. Now, what would we watch for an entry? Well, most aggressively, I would look for a move up through about 559. So somewhere right in, breaking back above through those highs, right in there. It looks like just right around 550, 560, somewhere 559, 560, right in there. That would be the most aggressive. Now, you have this resistance right above. So the more conservative entry is up here around 614 when we clear that prior consolidation there. And you have just a spike up with two red candles. So I would use caution. If you get in down here, you definitely want to chase your stops up. Stop, of course, for all of these is down here, below the low, below the roadmap line. Your stop down here initially. Now, how long do these take? Well, since you're not familiar with it, typically we look at how long the last move was and how long this pullback was, and you're counting on at least 3 times longer than the pullback. And typically it'll kind of match what the prior move was. Now, we don't really have a prior bounce off the roadmap line. We've just got this prior move up here. So this move up could last, about as long as this one did. So October through December, November, December, 2 months. So this could take about 2 months to get up in this 1.272, which would be 672 area, to the 1618, which is around 711 area. I do typically go conservative on my targets, so I'd probably pull down to around 710, 705 even. And for this one, maybe 670. I like to go conservative targets just because sometimes they come up a little short. And these even though they're fib lines and they have a to the penny price, I tend to find that they're a little bit fuzzy and they're plus or minus a couple dollars. They just tend to be a zone, even though we have definitive numbers. You can see with all the excitement that happens, we tend to make a zone. The ATR tends to matter, but I don't jump into it all that much. I just trade conservatively on my targets. So I usually put my target just a little bit below that. So that's ASML for the week. COP right here. We're going to have to go a little bit quicker on some of these, but you get the idea. This one, if it's breaking above 118 on Tuesday, Monday's closed, Monday's a holiday, so if it's breaking above 118 on Tuesday or even anytime next week, that one's probably a good aggressive entry. Now the conservative move is going to require something up here around 128, And we do have a kind of a yellow zone right in here. Gonna require a move up through there. And then targets on COP out to 146, 156. Could seem lofty, but I mean, look at the run it's had here. It's been making extensions. That's not all that unreasonable to expect if it really got going. It's going to take a little while, and the stop is going to have to be down here initially around 108. Now, if you get in aggressively, as soon as we get up in this area, you want to move your stop up into profit. And if you get in up here, as soon as we get up near the prior high, move your stop up in there. Protect your profit. Don't let it just bounce down off the prior high or bounce down off the resistance and take you out for a loss all the way down here. All right? So once you get a little room, move that stop up. Now, CVE, yeah, looking pretty good. Still going to keep it on the list. Run the fib right like this. You can see that prior consolidation right in here. Kind of a little bit of volatile action. Nice big 1, 2, 3 right down in there. And so conservatively, the conservative entry is right into the resistance. So the only entry really is a move up through 21. Looking for 23 or 25 on the upside. If you want to know about the probabilities these lines get hit, come take one of my classes. I have a fib class on this stuff, and I talk about it in the market roadmap too. So stop down here around 17 that's the deal for CVE. Next up, DIA, the Dow Jones. Yeah, ooh, that's had a big bit of volatility right in here. Creates a bigger zone. So really that one's a little tough on the extension, but 354 on the target, 362 on the stretch goal, and the stop down here around 324 on the bottom side. Now, most aggressively you could enter on a break up through those highs where we consolidated. It's very similar to the SP 500 chart where we consolidated right here. A break up through these highs, on the S&P is going to be a signal that we see some action higher. So that same sort of situation going on DIA right now, except it's consolidating on top of the roadmap line, which is a very bullish potential pattern there. So in phase, now that I see this again after looking at some other stuff, while it may make a higher high, I'm just not. It's looking more volatile. It missed that target. So I'm going to nix that one off the list. ET, nice three-wave pattern. It's been getting high, a little bit higher highs, higher low. Pull that in there. Do have that resistance built up right in there. So the entry is going to have to be up here around 1270 on a daily close. And this is a daily chart, daily candles, daily close. Don't just jump a spike. If it spikes up there and drops all in the same day and you got in, it's not what you want to do. You want to wait for confirmation. This is a conservative way to trade. So, and then 1330 on the upside. This is not going to be a big mover. 1386 for the extension goal. And this one could go higher, but based on these last few, it just makes incremental highs. So it may only get up to this 1330 area before retracing again. Stop, of course, initially down here. And if you get in up here, when it makes that move up to the prior high, you got to lock it in quick. The volatility may chop you out though, so be careful. There's not a lot of room to work with on something like that one. GS, what a pullback right there. That's a monster pullback. Gives you lots of room to work here. So this one's got some resistance right in here. So the conservative move up through 380. Looking for a 402 or 419 on the upside. You could jump the aggressive right in on a move up through that little spike high right there that filled the gap. If it's going to break above that, it's going to probably get up to here at least. You want to make sure you lock in that profit quickly. Stop initially, though, is going to have to be down here around 338 or so. That's it for GS. All right, next up, Macy's. Pull back from the highest high to the lowest low. It's just my standard fib tool that I use all the time when I'm doing this stuff. We do have a bit of look at that, a little bit of consolidation happened before and after right there. We consolidated like just a short little 2 days, and then we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days worth of crap before we dropped out of the bottom here. So that's going to be the upside resistance. 20, getting above 23.25 or 23.50 ish. It's going to be what I would want to see for conservative entry. Aggressive entry, probably just something breaking back above, like the high today and the high back here from last Wednesday. So something that breaks above that could be the aggressive entry. Stop, of course, down here below the lowest low, around 19 probably. And the target out there, 25 and 26.50. All right, next up, MCD. This one not quite. This one may get a little extension, but right now we'll run the numbers with it, right like that. So, the conservative type entry is going to be having a look for a move up through this stuff right there. Unfortunately, it spiked up in there, which creates this need for a move up through 280 for a conservative type entry to get to 287 and 294 on the upside. If we got more pullback, it would, look probably, it might even do this and pull on down just a little bit, but right now that's the numbers. And stop, of course, under the roadmap line around 256, just in case we get that extra spike down. So most aggressively, you'd want to see a move up through this high right here around Tuesday, a couple days back. But that was 4 red candles in a row, so I would be cautious on that one. Not the best. Now that's like I said in the beginning, I like to find the best of the best. This one, maybe not the best of the best at the moment. So next up, MRO. Nice look and move. Highest high to the lowest low right there. Didn't quite hit it. All right. And looking back, that was a marginal higher high. Didn't get the extension, so gotta wonder just a little bit. But this time back here in June, a lot of energy did this gap down, 3 reds, gap down. We tracked it on the roadmap line, roadmap watch list quite a bit, and a lot of things made this high over here before they pulled back once again. Now, if you'd been getting in the more aggressive entry, chasing up with your stop, as we bounced off of that prior high area, you probably would have been stopped out and not ridden it all the way down. But this gives you another opportunity right here. Most aggressively, want to move up through these highs right over here, probably something around 28.50 on a daily close. And then you've got that little bit of consolidation. Now look at that, happened again. Consolidated before it popped, then consolidated after it popped on the way back down, right at that 618 level. It's amazing the number of times this happens. So what you want to see, that move up through there to find your more conservative entry around 32 for 35 or 37-ish, 37 and change, 37.50 on the upside. Stop initially down here around 25. All right, next up, Netflix. Hey, Devin, good to see you, man. Just kind of sharing the market roadmap watch list for the first week. So here is Netflix. Did exactly what I was looking for it to do. Pulled back all the way to the roadmap line, held support, moving back up. This would be the most aggressive entry right here, right in there. Now, we did have some consolidation right there before the pop and a gap. Like we just gapped through that support resistance zone right there. So that creates a little zone like that, kind of up to the 786. And if you wanted to be conservative, you want to see it move up through that 323 area for 346 or 365 on the upside. And this one's got a whoa baby long way to go. If it comes all the way up here, fills that gap to the fullest, well, it pretty much filled that gap on that spike. And so the next gap up here may be where it goes, and it could take a while to get there. It could be a little bit volatile. So if you got time, you could just trade back up to 500. That's a healthy gain on a few shares, or even a bunch of shares. I mean, that'd be a healthy gain on any shares you threw into Netflix right there. But just looking at the history, it's going to be a going to be a volatile. It's got some swings to it, so be careful. And the fib ladder keeps on climbing, and these targets run way on up there. So, but the initial target 346, the stretch goal 365, stop of course initially down here around 270. All right, next up OXY. I don't like the way it closed right at the bottom. While that may go, I'm going to nix it for this week. Take it off the list. T, not the most promising. I'm going to nix that one too. VLO. That was a lower high. Higher high. Urge extreme caution on this one. Right there. I would need a move up through that 135 area. Targets 149, 158 on the upside. Stop down here initially below 113 or so. That's how I'd play it. It doesn't really have an aggressive entry. You already basically missed it on that one. It had this funk from back here, right there. So I mean, the aggressive entry is right there, and it's right into the potential upside resistance. I mean, you can jump it now, but it's iffy. It could find resistance and bounce down like it did right here. Come down for a second dip. All right, XLE. Coming up a little short, but that was a higher high. Look at that, same consolidation right there, right in that ballpark. So you're going to want to see something up around 92.50 on a daily close for 98 or 102 on the upside targets. And your stop is going to have to be down here around 80, down below the roadmap line, just in case you get the second dip. All right. And then XME, to wrap up the list here. That was a higher high. This has not been a big mover, and it's not really bouncing off the roadmap line, and had a bigger pullback back there. It's potential, potential. But we're going to have to see some work. This is not a huge opportunity one right here. This one needs a move up to 54 to get 56 or 58 on the upside for the first target and the stretch goal. Stop down here around 48 to begin with. And that's what we got to work with. That's the list. ASML, COP, CVE, DIA, ET, GSM, MCD, MRO, NFLX, VLO, XLE, XME. I am going to email this list out just like I do every week. Throw the video in there, and that's the watch list. And if you want something like this, like I said, jump down in the description. You can hook up on it for $5. Otherwise, I'll see you for 30 Minutes of Awesome on Tuesday, January 3rd. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you around. You might check out this other video, too, that you might find interesting. So, see you later, everybody.